a bit about myself very quickly. I was, as Peter said, I was a writer basically for about 10 years. I was a print journalist, as it were, covering news, features, all sorts of things on local, regional, national newspapers in the UK. Then I was a staff reporter at the Daily Mirror newspaper, as it were, about 2003, 2006. So the web was sort of on the go, and I think the Daily Mirror then only had about 2 people on its website. So you would do a piece for the paper, and then it would turn up on the website, and a lot of people weren't hugely interested at that point in the website. And then I took the decision to do a master's degree in documentary, where I spent about a year and a bit, over a year, learning camera and editing. And then in 2007, The Guardian was setting up its video department, which has now been sort of rebranded Multimedia Department. So I was there for about a year, actually, 2007 to 2008. And then I was away for a couple of years, and then I came back, which was very interesting to see how it sort of progressed from 2010 just to late last year. Now I'm sort of over here. So as a freelance writer and video journalist, I've done a little writing for The Guardian. I've done some video for BBC World and BBC website, Wall Street Journal. I've done a little bit of corporate work as well. And the slides up here, I think I can just skim into them very quickly. This is just 3 quick examples of the sort of stuff I did. There I'm using 2 cameras, Sony EX1 camera. I think these are PMW cameras. Are they PMW? Which is basically it's a similar sort of camera. And this is typical thing you would do, filming a Guardian writer talking to a French photographer. There's another one, which is out and about on a march, on a protest march covering protest against government cuts. So that's the sort of standard thing. And literally I would go out, film, edit, and get it up on the day. So that protest march one, I think we pretty much just came back to the office and you would turn it around in 2 to 3 hours, edit, and then be on the site. And then the last one is actually for the BBC, which was a Copenhagen restaurant. I was doing a profile of that. So I've called this talk Video Journalism in Reality because I want to give a little snapshot of where I think the video journalist is and how the video journalist is going to evolve. Can people understand me? Yes. Fantastic. Good. And also where it's probably going, because as we know, technology, evolves and anything can happen. So newspapers and websites, as we've seen from the previous presentations, there's a lot going on with animations, explainer graphics, multimedia interactives. For instance, the most sort of high-profile celebrated one is New York Times Snowfall back in, seems a long time ago, in 2012. But because of my background, moving from writing to video journalism and doing both, I want to look at the challenge for the regular journalist writer, because 2 months ago, this guy, Gerard Baker, was visiting London City Uni in London, journalism students, and he gave a talk, and he was asked by one of the students for his role on his view on the role of video on news websites, and that was the answer he gave. I want every journalist to be a videographer. So he wants the Wall Street Journal journalists to essentially deliver both writing and video coverage wherever they are, which is genuine, multimedia reporting, which I have to say, on the newspapers, certainly in Britain, you don't really have that multitasking, multimedia skill at the moment. And I was lucky enough to spend more time studying studying camera and editing, and places like this will do studies of camera and editing for the students here. But out there's definitely a generation of journalists in their 30s and older who haven't been involved in any kind of camera and editing courses, and the training is not so great, and I'll get into that. For instance, I know of a news website in the UK, which is not The Guardian, I should say, where there was a reporting role available in a particular region. This is reasonably recently. And the news desk basically told the reporter saying, we want to send somebody there, We want them to do filming, we want them to do video, and we want them to do words. And the vast majority of those staff reporters, the staff journalists, had hardly filmed at all. And the news desk was sort of saying, we want this. And so it's kind of, whose fault is that? Should it be the journalist who is being more proactive to try and get these new skills, or should you really be sort of asking the news desk and asking the in-house bosses, what should be happening? I don't actually know if he told the students that his staff would get trained heavily or not. But one thing I do know, which is going from writing to filming, is that I think a lot of reporters, writers, look at what they see on television, and also the internet actually to an extent, but mostly TV news, etc. And they're scared about the technical abilities, and they think, I can't film that. Like, that is totally beyond my reach. I can do journalism, but that is too much. And what I want to sort of look at is how news, internet, video isn't, pretty focus pools and pretty shots, and at a bare minimum, viewers sort of need to essentially just be able to see and preferably hear what's going on, and so sort of clarity is king. What I want to skim through here, we're not going to watch these. This is the top trending videos for news of last year on YouTube. We're going to watch one of them, but the rest of them, I'm just going to skim through really, really quickly. So the first one is the meteorite going over Russia, the rock from space in the sky, which pulled in 39 million viewers, and that was basically CCTV or dash cam footage all edited together by Russia Today. The next one is Boston Marathon explosions, which was 24 million, and that was unedited mobile phone footage from a sports producer who was filming on the spot. Happened to be there. The third one is got 23 million. That was fertilizer plant explosion in Texas. That was unedited mobile phone footage, who was basically uploaded by a bystander onto YouTube. The fourth one's Boston bombings, which was FBI CCTV footage released, 21 million. The fifth one actually is, I didn't expect to see in there, which is from BBC Newsnight, which is like, if you don't know, it's like the BBC's Deadline, DR Deadline. And it's an interview with Russell Brand, who's a British comedian, and he's now a Hollywood star. So I was kind of slightly unexpecting it. And that one is 10 minutes long, and all the rest are reasonably short. And that's a sit-down, proper sort of interview as such. Number 6 is a huge rock nearly hitting a car in a China mudslide, which was unedited footage filmed by a dash cam on the front of the car. Number 7 is a tornado footage edited by it's edited mobile phone footage, which was uploaded by storm chasers essentially. So they uploaded it. And number 8 was CCTV footage released by the FBI of the Aaron Alexis, the shooter at the Washington Navy Yard, and that got about 8 million. The 9th one, which is one we're going to watch, and the one that really interests me, is the rescue of the 3 women kidnapped by Ariel Castro, the 3 women in the house. And that's an on-the-spot TV interview of Charles Ramsey, this guy who's involved in the rescue. And then number 10, which you can't quite see, is Jack Nicholson interrupting Oscar winner Jennifer Lawrence's ABC TV news interview, which was sort of studio-based, but I'm not going to show that. Okay, so if you look at the list quickly, and as I said, these are the top news videos on YouTube of 2013. 5 of them are mobile phone and dash cam footage, mostly unedited, of disasters, violent incidents, or rocks from space, essentially. Numbers 4 and 8 are CCTV footage of a violent incident that FBI has released. Numbers 5 and 10, which is the Russell Brand Newsnight one, and 10 is the Jack Nicholson, Jennifer Lawrence one, they are sit-down interviews and celebrity-related. And the one that interests me, as I said, is this one. There we go. And as a video journalist, this interests me because it's a TV reporter interview of Charles Ramsey, who's a neighbour who helped rescue the kidnapped women in the house. And what's interesting is that, as opposed to the rock from space, or the rock from the car in China, near the car in China, or the Boston Marathon bombing footage, it doesn't have the key moment of the sort of actuality, the actual moment that that's in the other ones. Essentially, it doesn't capture the moment that women were released. So it's a guy recalling the story of the discovery, but the video has a sort of huge amount of authenticity about it, and this is the point I want to make. And despite being TV news, it's not very slick by any means, which I think makes it even more compelling for the viewer. And I just want to play the clip, and it's 2.5 minutes long.
Hey, Charles, let me talk to you. I'm talking with Charles Ramsey. He's a neighbor. Walk me through again what happened this afternoon. You heard screaming.
Heard screaming. I meet my McDonald's. I come outside. I see this girl going nuts, trying to get out of her house. So I go on the porch.
Okay.
I go on the porch, and she says, "Help me get out. I've been in here a long time." So I figured it's a domestic violence dispute. So I open the door, and we can't get in that way because how the door is, it's so much that a body can't fit through, only your hand. So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, "Call 911. My name is Amanda Berry."
Now, did you know who that was when she said that?
When she told me, it didn't register until I got the call in 911, and then I'm like, I'm calling the 911 for Amanda Berry? I thought this girl was dead. You know what I mean? And she got on the phone, and she said, "Yes, this is me." And the detective, Cook, right here, Detective Gregory Cook says, "Charles, do you know who you rescued?" I said.
Now, and when did you see Gina?
About 5.
We're good. So
about 5 minutes after the police got here, see, the girl Amanda told the police, "I ain't just the only ones. It's some more girls up in that house." So they went up there, 30, 40 deep, and when they came out was just astonishing because I thought they were gonna come up with nothing. I figured, whoever she was, and like I say, my neighbor, you got some big testicles to pull this off, bro, because we see this dude every day. Every day.
How long have you lived here?
I've been here a year.
Okay.
You see where I'm coming from?
Right.
I barbecue with this dude. We eat ribs and whatnot and listen to salsa music. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. And you had no indication that there was anything going on?
Bro, not a clue that girl was in that house or anybody else was in there against their will, because how he is he just comes out to his backyard, plays with the dogs, tinker with his cars and motorcycles, goes back in the house. So he's somebody that you look away because he's not doing nothing but the average stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's nothing exciting about him. Well, until the day.
What was the reaction on the girls' faces? I can't imagine to see the sunlight, to be around people.
I knew something was wrong when a little pretty white girl ran into a black man's arms. Something is wrong here. Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway.
Charles, thank you very much.
Dead giveaway.
Thank you very much for your time. And
either she homeless or she got problems. That's the only reason why she run to a black man.
Charles, thank you for being there, man. Charles Ramsey, neighbor, heard the screaming, took action, went and did what he needed to do. The rest is unfolding before us here on CMAR.
It's absolutely amazing, isn't it? What I think is incredible about it is that it's actually, even just watching it, I've watched it so many times as well. It's it's funny and it's dramatic. It really sort of swoops around. But what I want to say about it is that, and you can't sort of capture that sort of interview in a TV studio. I think you have to be sort of on the scene, as it were. And he is not, he is not a celebrity, and that got 8 million views. And the authenticity factor, he could have been anybody, a viewer watching who has barbecue and eats ribs, and they could have been in that situation. He gives out great sort of normality and authenticity, and there's some fantastic quotes in it. But one big reason, and this sounds slightly obvious, but one big reason that the reporter got the interview that he did, is that Charles felt comfortable and he was in his natural environment. He was on his own street, and he got the sort of best out of him that way. And there's little points like the fact that there's interruptions and Charles has to move a tripod mid-interview is slightly ridiculous, but it kind of contributes to the overall sort of authenticity of it. And it's not slick. And to me, the really obvious thing is that having a sort of large feed TV camera and an on-screen reporter wasn't necessary to deliver the same sort of content, as it were, news content. And a news website journalist could get the same interview, as it were. And I think, yeah, that type of interview could have been easily done by a journalist on a mobile phone, and it should be. And I'll get to that later. So remember the Wall Street Journal bosses quote, "I want every journalist to be a videographer." So, just thinking back to the sort of top 10 lists of most watched news videos of 2013, 8 of them are not of the highest quality. This is obviously clearly good news for journalists and writers who are being told that they have to be videographers. And that's the sort of point I want to emphasize. 8 out of 10 of the videos all have elements of sort of real authenticity. And it's something that users of YouTube, with all its sort of varying quality of uploads, clearly value and recognize. And sort of unstaged moments, real horror, real adrenaline, and real people in extraordinary situations. One thing I just want to move on to is look at the Wall Street Journal and The Guardian, who have got 2 examples of trends in video journalism which are sort of happening at the moment. The first one, sorry, I'll skim back there actually. Long form video and mobile video. So the first one here is a Guardian long form video. It's actually 20 minutes long. And it's by Guardian video journalist called John Domikos, who's really, really good. And he followed a number of Syrian refugees trying to get into Europe, and they sort of, they're between Turkey and Bulgaria. This guy's in Turkey, his wife is actually in Bulgaria. And I'm going to play the first 2 minutes as just to show you this long form example, and I'll sort of tell you a little bit of detail behind it.
My явно не може без граница. Все още човечеството не е стигнало до там, за да живее без граница. Границите сигурно някъде са абсолютно необходими, тъй като разделят различни светове, различни държави, враждуващи държави. И тази линия гарантира някакво помирие между границите. Това за мен е една от най-важните външни граници на Европейския съюз.
الو خدا تقریبا باز نزدیک ماما ریچا و خوشا ايه انقاني ما بحساس عليك خاص كربو اري قال بس توصل بالسلامه ليش في بالطريق هون بالسلامه السلامه من عند رب العالمين بتنزل مو من عند واحد مثل هذاك عاش الحاضرين يا بتنجح يا بتنمسك يا بتقدر يا بتموت الظاهر تركنا الحرب راح نفوت بحرب ثانيه هيك الظاهر راح يكون
Bulgaria has seen a huge increase in Syrian refugees reaching its border with Turkey ever since neighbouring Greece stepped up security at its border a year ago. To cope with this unprecedented influx, Bulgaria has hastily opened several makeshift reception centres, such as this disused army barracks at Harmanli. I was granted access just before Christmas. For most of the time, the only official presence I see is to stop people leaving. The camp commandant makes a rare appearance to sign in the latest new arrival, a woman with 4 children. From there, they are left to fend for themselves.
جوزها مو معها طبعا تخاف هي لحال 4 أولاد معها وما في محل هون لسه الله يسر إن شاء الله.
Sipan, himself a Syrian refugee, takes her off to find somewhere to sleep.
So what's happened is John is a more experienced VJ, essentially, on a larger camera this sort of size. When I say larger camera, I mean sort of semi-professional, that sort of size there, on a EX1, Sony EX1 or PMW, I think he filmed on. It's the same camera as me, essentially, and he doesn't use mobile phone particularly much unless he needs to, because he works within the video stroke multimedia department of The Guardian. What is evolved, actually, is, and this is a new approach that's just really happening, is that his sort of filming style, etc., hasn't changed so much, but the post-production, there's more resources and more effort going into post-production. So essentially, John would normally, as a VJ, you film and edit. But in this case, an editor was brought in, who I think has got some broadcast experience. He's a really good editor. It's called Alex Rees. And he was brought in, and he shaped it up better. And I could see the difference, because it's essentially a different person editing it. John was in there as well in the edit room, but it was far more crafted. And I know that New York Times, for instance, who's got a big department, I mean, The Guardian must have maybe about 25, roughly, people in its multimedia department. That takes in audio and video. New York Times is way bigger, and they're putting a lot more resources into post-production and just cleaning things up, thinking about structure and editing things better. And actually, this is happening with Vice as well, in that they'll have a jobbing video journalist out and about, and then they'll put more resources into crafting a sort of better film or video together. And some of these videos tend to be 10 to 30 minutes long. And the point is, and what's happened over the last sort of couple of years is that the length doesn't matter. A few years ago, everybody was being told it's got to be short in news. And now we've hit the point where people realise, just like the cinema to an extent, is length doesn't really matter, it's about the engagement. And actually, this sort of longer form is not just newspaper websites. This year, AOL launched a documentary series called Connected, which runs at 22 to 30 minutes per episode. Glamour magazine and GQ magazines are both making society and sports videos on their websites at a longer length, between 7 and 19 minutes. So there's definitely a change in that policy of video must be short. The other video here, this is a Wall Street Journal's website, and what I like about this and why I'm showing this is that they're basically training the reporters with mobile phones a lot, and they've been doing it for a good couple of years. This is WorldStream, where the reporters shoot mobile video, just short clips, and then they upload it, and then it's used however they want. It could be embedded into a live blog. The Wall Street Journal still does web TV, live web TV with sort of shows. So sometimes they use the footage in that, and there's a sort of lot of uses. And I'm pretty impressed. And this is, to me, this is the very least that news organisations should be doing, which is getting the writers to shoot and record mobile video. It's an extremely basic clip, but it's 30 seconds.
My name is Louise. I study here in Vila Madalena. I am 18 years. So
I should say, this is from Brazil, and it's a vox pop with somebody unhappy about the metro strike in Brazil and generally unhappy with the country.
I am finishing high school, and I work at a store that sells clothing for surf and skate. And I don't have a car yet, so everything that I do on my own, and I need public transport to go to the places that I need. And nowadays, everything in Brazil is a mess, and it's very complicated, because every day it's a bad news, and I don't know where this country will stop.
Okay, so it's really basic, but to be honest, I've seen a lot worse from reporters and writers who are essentially trying, but they need to just sort of do the basics of, keep the shot there, don't move around, and the sound is okay, as it were. I don't think she's even using an external mic. And WorldStream has actually been going since 2012. So 2 years it's been going, and I think they're a little bit ahead of the game in training and importantly giving their reporters the space to improve, to give them the chance to go out and sort of get some experience. And one thing which I think is quite important, which is I think the reporters and writers need to be told, and this is from me speaking to other UK journalists, essentially, who are in newsrooms, is they need to be told, or the news desks need to tell the writers and reporters that they can prioritise video on a job. If they do a lesser job, it's good for them to go out and to shoot the video, as opposed to always kind of get the words in. When are you getting the words in? How many words? They need to be sort of coached in that way. And I should add, on the mobile video front, there's also a lot of editing apps inside, for instance, an iPhone. There's an app which is good for filming called Filmic Pro, and there's the iMovie app inside an iPhone. You can internally, as it were, edit and then upload. So there's much more potential for the writer, as it were. And I should say, actually, I should plug this guy called Adam Gabbett in the Guardian US office, who's a writer, and he's taken to it pretty well. And he's just done it sort of through his initiative. Can I ask, has anybody heard of Tim Pool, who is an American journalist? No, good. Right. Where are we? This is Tim Pool. And the video will introduce him. And it's I'll just show the first 2 minutes.
They've taken the net. The protesters have pulled the net away from the police. The police are falling. The net has been claimed by the protesters. Tonight belongs to Occupy Wall Street.
I had a cell phone, that's about it, when Occupy Wall Street started. Whatever was happening seemed to be important, it seemed to be interesting, and a lot of people were talking about it, especially with the videos of police brutality. These are high-intensity moments where it's the culmination of all of this emotion that people have when they want to see a change happen that's not happening. People were talking about how filming was their defense against the police brutality, to film it, document it, and share with the world. So I thought, you know, if I do this live, the footage will go straight to the web, and they're not going to be able to just erase it. The march has begun. We're now at 13th Street and Broadway, for those just tuning in. Chanting anticapitalista, or anti-capitalist in Spanish. 2:21 p.m. and we're here at Irving and 15th Street. We've seen about 6 arrests at the anti-capitalist march so far. So there is an arrest happening now at 13th and Avenue C. Within a week, I had 2,000 live viewers for any broadcast I was doing. But by the time the park got raided on November 15th, ultimately I ended up broadcasting for over 21 hours straight. This was an explosive day. I had over 250,000 viewers. And then 2 days later was the anniversary march. I ended up filming for another 13 hours, but this day I ended up with over 750,000 viewers.
Police running in full speed. The protesters have surrounded a few officers. While this is going on, the protesters are taking action elsewhere. More barricades are being brought into the center of the park.
There was no mainstream coverage. They didn't have a way to get any live, satellite trucks or anything in there.
Right. So Tim Pool was a live streamer, essentially, who was around Occupy movement. And he wasn't a trained journalist as such, but he covered the Occupy Wall Street protests in New York at the end of 2011, actually, by live streaming video through his iPhone onto the internet. And it wasn't complicated. He was using a Ustream website, and he now uses live stream website. And he had a good internet signal, and he had extra batteries to keep his phone going. And in 2013, last year, he was hired by Vice Media to continue this sort of coverage at protests around the world, essentially. And he's experimented with Google Glass to cover protests in Turkey, Cairo, and Brazil. But Tim is mostly sort of mobile-led. And where are we? One thing I want to show is Vice Media, which launched Vice News late last year, is using live streaming. It's one of the, it's kind of one of the highest profile news organizations which is using live streaming with some of its news reporters, not just Tim. And they use the live stream website to provide that live video. But what I want to show here quickly is this is a 60-second clip of Tim's live feed last year from Istanbul, which I think is on Google Glass. There he is. There he is. He's wearing Google Glass, and he's live streaming through that. I'm pretty sure it's Google Glass.
Things are sort of at a standstill here now. I'm gonna go up and see what's going on in the park and try and get an overhead view for those that are watching. I'll come back down after checking things out, see what's going on. But so far things seem calm for now. I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back shortly. Make sure you check out Vice.com for more information on what's going on here at Istanbul Rising. Find me on Twitter at Timcast, TIMCAST for updates. I'll let you know when I'm coming back up. Give me a few minutes just to see what's going on. I'm gonna come back up with a live overhead of the park. If we can see anything or not, I'm not sure. But I'll come back down and we'll keep things going. So thanks for tuning in, and let's see what happens.
All right. So clearly there's not a lot happening, and that's the sort of problem with live streaming. The previous video, had lots of key moments, lots of action. That's the sort of reality of streaming hours and hours and hours. So, there's clearly a problem of how much live streaming somebody should do. But at least he makes the point that it sort of can be done. And also Joe, the previous speaker, touching on live mobile coverage in his presentation of VGTV. And I know that Tim Pool has used a satellite phone in order to maintain the internet connection as well. With all this in mind, and internet signals improve, I think that news and magazine websites shouldn't be looking at streaming hours and hours of protests, but mobile video live streaming selectively across news, sport, and culture, or whatever genre, essentially. Just concentrate on the things that people might benefit from seeing live. So essentially, and also actually when live footage comes in, it's recorded, it can be clipped, and then you get more viewers after the live footage has gone, essentially. So press conferences and speeches, you could easily do. If a reporter's there, they can set up a camera phone. They can set it up. You can have wireless mics around the speaker's table, and you can use a full-size tripod with an iPhone adapter, and you could be streaming a speech. And that doesn't have to be politics. It could be sport, essentially. I actually saw MSN's website yesterday by chance for some reason, and it said England World Cup press conference live. And I genuinely thought, oh, they're live streaming it. And I clicked on it, and it was a live blog of words and words and words and words and words. And I just think when the technology comes through and people start doing this more, the live words, live blogs are going to look pretty old-fashioned. Reactions to big events like Charles Ramsey. So, for instance, the reporter can be on the scene pretty quickly. And then demos, marches, I'm slightly cautious about. Because you have to pick your moments there. So essentially, to round up, I'll just skim on to, I'm not going to do that. Here we go. So live streaming on the internet is not that new, but live mobile being streamed by reporters is reasonably new, and it's not being done very widespread. But if the coverage is selective, I think it could be genuinely. I think that it's quite a game changer, as it were, in terms of what a reporter needs to do. To report. And the question is, obviously the commercial question is, can you make it pay and bring in income? And that's something really which commercial departments sort of have to think about, whether they look to advertising aspect. And actually, I don't know whether anybody knows this, but last night it was announced, or it broke, that CNN is looking to invest in Vice News. So there's going to be, so it's clearly worked for Vice in that way, and they're going to get even more money towards their operation. Who knows how that CNN Vice News relationship will work, but we'll find out. But literally rounding up, I would emphasize that reporters need to be given proper training and time to learn and evolve in addition to their writing duties, and have the capacity to live stream when they need to as reporters. And thank you very much. Tusen tack.